Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning in for another great night of tinfoil, woo, and Preston and Dolly. I love Preston Dennett Dolly Safran. Not only are they great friends of this show, but they are just two of the most loving people you could ever meet, truly and dearly. And, we're going to bring them in momentarily, but first we have to say hello to each and every one of you. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position. SJ with a silver, Road Flare taking home the bronze medal tonight. Who else we got here? Well, let's take a little looky-poo here. We got Kitty Caddywhack, Robert Lamoth, Brown Dwarf, Pony Pong. How you doing? Eternity Eternal. Mama Catherine. Mwah! Mama Catherine's going to be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Matt Carter, Mel WD-40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. When it's rigid and dry, it never feels good doing a radio show, ever. So when he lubes us up, we're able to sail right in and have a great time all night long. T-Bone, my man, how are you? Scott B., good to have you here. And Joanne, nice to see you. There's Cosmic Joe and Sweet Timmy James. Right there, my man. Good to have you. Okay, continuing on as we scroll on down. Noble Patrick. Nice to have you here. And who's next here? Well, let's just scroll down a little bit here. Oh, same people. Paramarv. Nice to see you, my man. Thank you for coming on in. Trucker Andrew. How you doing, brother? I hope you're having a good night. Thomas Rock. Good to see you. John Jackson, what's happening, my man? As we continue on with roll call, there's Frankie B. Frankie B will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Human Carl is here, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you around here. Hope you're having a great night. The Pride of Wimbledon, Glenn John McEnroe is here. Thank you for joining us. As we continue on with our roll call, JSCO, and Phyllis Mouche Perry. She likes a good hyphen between her two last names, so that's why there is one. Little Cam over on Twitch, so pumped up that Preston and Dolly are on the show tonight that he did 800 sit-ups combined with 200 pull-ups in 17 minutes. 17 minutes tonight. He is jacked for tonight's show. Lee the Bee, nice to see you. As we continue on with our roll call, there's Resonate. How you doing? Flat 6, good to see you. As we continue on, and Rich Buddy. How you doing, my friend? J Truth Seeker. Hope you're having a good night. And there's Algaray over on Twitch. Yeah. He says, you might be skeptical if I told you this, but I prepared for tonight's show by doing 172 deadlifts in 37 seconds. That is jacking hard, man. Jacking hard. Evan Walters, you haven't been around for a while. That pisses me off. And I'm pissed off you're here now. Maybe I shouldn't, but I am. Resident, good to see you. Warded Dragon, thanks for coming on in. Good afternoon, Ozzy. Matthew Gutka, Operation Shutdown. Thank you for coming on in. Fapster, how you doing, my man? As we continue on with the roll call here. Polly Rotterman, good to see you. And who is next on our list? Well, let's just put that on pause, get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're getting real into UFOs, skepticism, aliens, skepticism, and skepticism more with Preston Dennett and Dolly Safran. Man, I tried to glue them together there for a second. Queen Peachy Keen, how you doing? As we continue on with our roll call, she's tipping her hat, so I got to give her one of these now. There we go. And moving on with our roll call, here's Vanessa. Thank you for coming on in. And Jessica S. UFO Lake Group, what are you doing? How you doing tonight? And, well, I think we're almost caught up here. Marty Burback, good to see you. Running out of time here, so we have to hurry it on up. Scrolling down. We are caught up. Don't forget the super chat is open. And throw those horns up, everybody. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a wonderful show for you tonight on the big show here as Preston Dennett and Dolly Safran are here to take us through the land of UFOs, skepticism, and everything in between. Then in hour number 3, we have a busy, busy night. We have Swamp Dweller taking us through. Then Robin Haynes coming on in with the Cryptid Report. Follow that up with the Dave 101 and the Weird News of the Week. All right, let's get right to it. Two of my favorite people are with us on Spaced Out Radio tonight, Dolly Safran and Preston Dennett. I call them a power couple in the UFO experiencers world because why not? Dolly is a major experiencer of the ET connection and everything that goes in between. Preston, not only an experiencer, he is also a major contributor to writing these incredible stories and books. You can get all of his books at prestondennett.weebly.com. And you know what? We're just going to roll right into it. There's no point in doing a giant introduction to these two because we've had them on the show many times before. They bring incredible content to what we are doing. And I just don't want to waste time on it. And I just want to make sure that we get right to it. So let's just bring them on. Dolly Safran, Preston, it's good to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. How you guys doing?
Wonderful. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
I love coming here.
Doing well. Having fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Preston, we're going to get you to get a little closer to your microphone, if you don't mind. You're really, really quiet there.
I am? All right, hold on. Let me see if I can turn this up
there
a little
you
bit.
go. There you go. Now we got that beautiful voice. Now we got it. Preston, one of the big things that I always love to talk about on this show is why we do what we do. You have been doing this for a number of years. Because of this field, you got to meet a wonderful woman in Dolly, which you two have just a beautiful connection now. But why did you get started on this? What made you say that this is the way you wanted to keep your life going?
I didn't want to do this. I was dragged into it kicking and screaming, unwillingly, really. I found out my brother had seen a UFO, and he tried to tell me years earlier. I didn't believe him. Heard a report about a sighting over Alaska. It's a very famous case, November 17, 1986. You may have heard of it before. Captain Kenju Torochi, his crew were paced by this huge, well, two of them, walnut-shaped UFO. It's a great case, but the news was really kind of just joking about it. But, I hated the subject, didn't want to talk about it, was pretty sure it wasn't real, but remembered my brother's sighting. So I asked him what he thought he saw and found out that he actually probably did see something amazing. I mean, he was within 100 feet of this craft, which had a dome on top, little lights around it, totally silent, treetop level. He chased it in his car down Reseda Boulevard. This is the center of, well, outside of LA, but densely populated area, and had two friends with him. So he wasn't alone. He had witnesses to support his story. And I called them, and they absolutely confirmed what he saw. And that sent the ball rolling. And it was really upsetting to find out that I had two sister-in-laws, or soon-to-be sister-in-laws, who had encounters. A couple of friends, one had missing time, several people at work. So yeah, my whole world essentially collapsed, or what I thought I believed to be true wasn't. And that's what kind of brought me into this. And I have not been able to get myself out of it since.
Well, it's easy to see why Dolly is, someone who is into this, because she's a lifelong experiencer. Preston, you later found out you were an experiencer as well. I mean, looking at it from an experiential standpoint, Dolly, this is something that many people don't even know they're being taken. They think it's nightmares. They think it's a little bit something of everything else but the actual incident. When did you know that this was real?
That it was real when I was 14.
Yes.
Before that, I knew it was happening, but I was putting it aside and trying not to think about it. My mom was real adamant about me not going there. She wanted me to think that I was having problems or whatever. And I woke up one day and I thought, I'm either completely crazy and I need a lot of help, or this is real. And I set out to prove it to myself one way or the other. I was dog determined to do it, and I did. That was the day. And it gave me, I had headaches for days after. I was ill over it. It took a lot for me to absorb because I kept having the fill-ins in between the memories, the hardcore memories. Things started snapping together in my mind, and I started putting it all together, and I realized, oh my God, instead of jumping for joy over it, which I was doing, I realized that the whole of it, the entire context of what this meant for me in my life. And so it took me a little bit to get comfortable back in my skin over it. And then when I did, I was good. After that, I was able to manage my way through being there and here, going back and forth. So.
As experiencers, and Preston, I'll pass it over to you here for a second.
Okay.
What have you learned about yourself regarding not only your experiences, but life and the people who surround you?
Oh, wow. That's not a question I've ever been asked before. What have I learned about myself? I'm going to have to think about that one. I've learned that I have no fear of ETs or UFOs. Every single time I've seen one, it's been thrilling and wonderful. I've learned that I've got psychic abilities. We all do, but that certainly ramped up at the same time this started rolling out. I'm gonna have to think about that one. I've learned that we are a much tinier little piece of the universe, perhaps, than I originally thought. So it's a bit humbling to find out all of this is real. I've learned I don't know hardly anything because the more I try to figure out what's going on, the less I feel like I know to a certain extent. I mean, I really feel like we're beginning to understand why ETs are here and, you know, what they're doing with all of us and that. But each question brings more answers. You start to realize how truly infinitely huge the universe is and how
Right.
tiny you are.
Oh, I get that. I wish I could be tiny again. You know, I guess what I'm looking at is when you started adapting your life, Preston, to this love, this culture, this understanding that there is more than just an NFL game or a baseball game on the television, that there's more to trying to solve the final Jeopardy answer. There's more to it than just taking your dog for a walk to the park. How did the people around you react to it? I know your family has had encounters for a number of years, but I'm thinking more friends, co-workers, people who may not be in the know. How did they react?
Yeah. Well, you know, my family is very close and loving. They still didn't react that well. It was ultimately really isolating in the beginning because things like, you know, sports and all of that, everything else seems so mundane and trivial and just not as interesting. So I would clear a room pretty quick if I started to, you know, talk about this subject. And to me, that's really all I wanted to talk about. At work, I was very open about it. Everyone knew that I was into this subject. And they were all very supportive. My bosses, I've had several of them over the years, would bring me, you know, articles or say, hey, did you hear this or that? And we had a lot of new employees coming in and out of our office. It wasn't a great place to work. So the turnover was quite, you know, a lot. So they would always march up the new employee up to my desk and say, here's Preston. If you've seen a UFO, he wants to know. So it was great. I mean, the reaction at work was really wonderful. As far as friends, I had such a big family that we didn't have a whole lot of friends, really. It was all part of the family group. But yeah, thankfully, my family was very supportive. It divided us right down the middle. There was Mark, my brother, who'd had an experience, he believed. My little sister, Valerie, it turns out she had a missing time and experience as well. My sister, Victoria, she's like, oh, yeah, I've always known they were real. We saw that didn't you see when we had encyclopedias when we were kids? There was an entry. I'm like, no, I never saw that. So she's always thought that they were real. But my two older brothers, Stephen and Jamie, argued with me about this. My dad went to his grave not believing in this. But eventually all my siblings came around because I had the evidence to show them. And yeah, I mean, initially it was real hard, but it just got better and better as time went on.
How about for you, Dolly?
What did I learn? That we're not owners here. We are just passing through, and that anything here doesn't go with us. Anything that we consider tangible doesn't. The only things that we take with us are what we learn and what we understand and love. Okay. And as I was getting older, in my mid 30s, that really started to compound on me. I really started trying to embody that. It was more important how I dealt with reacting to things that just didn't matter, you know. I became very interested in Buddha for a while in my 30s, and I realized that the one thing that he always said over and over and over was, let it go. Just let it go. It doesn't matter. There's more important that we need to attend to, and it begins with us. And so I started trying really, really hard to work on that. And I'm very lucky because ET helped me with that. That's how they were teaching anyway, to deal with my life. family and friends. A lot of my family knew what was going on. It was well known in my family. You can't live the life that I was living and people not talk about it. It was seen and known. But nobody talked about it. I was discouraged from saying a word to anyone. And I tried to once, and it went very badly in the really early 70s. And I decided they were right. People are going to think I'm crazy. So I kept my mouth shut. I didn't really come out to anybody until I talked to Preston, literally, because it was uncomfortable for me to deal with, really uncomfortable. But as we're doing this, as we've moved along these last few years, it's gotten easier and people are more welcoming. And I think that's just because everybody's starting to wake up to this, and it's a topic of not shunning anymore. It's a topic of inquiry. People want to know now the truth, so that helps a lot.
Well, that you just said something that's very profound. There is people want to know the truth,
Yes.
but there's a lot of truths in the UFO world. So many truths. We see literally thousands of podcasts and YouTube channels talking about this subject on a daily basis. From
Right.
aliens are all evil and they're here to, be vampiric with our souls, to those who are it's all peace, love, and light, to those who say, well, we can't worry about aliens because these damn UAPs are all over the place, and we to everything. There's an opinion and a truth to everything. So I guess my question to either one of you, and Dolly, will start with you, is what is the truth? Where do we find the truth? And how do we expose it as the real truth when there's so many different opinions of truth out there?
It begins with each and every one of us and how we're discovering what the truth is. To be honest with you, we all need to become our own detectives, our own researchers, everybody. The very first thing you need to think is don't believe anything right off the top. I tell no one to believe me. Go research what I talk about. Literally learn what I talk about. It's out there to learn. Bring a lot of science to this subject, and that's out there. You can tangibly learn this and understand. Oh, I get it. The second thing is observation. We see a lot of stuff, but what you are looking at sometimes is a perfectly normal thing that happens here, okay, and not outside of this Earth existence. And it's rare for somebody to be able to know the difference between that and this. So you have to become good at that. Get a MUFON book, look it up online, look for ways to research this and understand what it is, and then start getting interested in jets, airplanes, our stuff. Look at it critically, look at it, start paying attention to the news that talks about this was in the sky, that was in the sky, and understand technology as best you can. That's a good foundation you can lay for yourself so that you can start learning what's real and what isn't. Learn photography and how photographs can be altered, faked, or misphotographed. In other words, there are different levels of photography and different ways that film or digital or whatever picks up a visual, and you have to learn to discern what you're actually looking at in those visuals. There's a million different things, but you got to start with the first step, and that's you and how you're reacting to it. If somebody says this person says this is true, and I believe them, you're doing yourself a disservice because you believe it, but you don't know it. And the idea here is for everybody to sit and foundationally know what the truth is. And it always starts with us. You can't know it for sure unless you learn it for yourself. That's the first step.
How about for you, Preston? Talk about the truth.
Yeah, well, I'm not a fan of when people say, that's your truth. Truth is truth. It either happened or it didn't. I sometimes get flack for saying, these are all true experiences. And people say, well, how do you know these are true? These are allegedly true. And my answer to that is this is a real person I'm talking about who had a real experience. This is something that happened to them. They know it's true. I like what Dolly said, because very early on in my research, I started to realize there's a huge difference between belief and knowledge. And you can believe something all day long. That doesn't make it true. So it does ultimately come down to what do you actually know? What can you verify as truth? And I think there's a lot of things in this universe that we all agree is true. There's, basic science. We know this is true. We know we ourselves live on a planet. I mean, there are things we all accept as truth. And this UFO subject is a mess. And I don't think it should be. It's largely only because our own governments or secret governments have spent an enormous amount of time, money, and energy in a very carefully orchestrated, brutal cover-up of UFO evidence and a disinformation campaign and a fear-based narrative that has made it very hard to extricate the truth out of this mess of honest-to-God lies and nonsense. So yeah, I think truth is there. And I think if you take a look at the huge number of cases, you can start to sort of build a pattern of what's true and what's not, in the same way that if you continually, build a whole foundation of a database, you start to see the commonalities between cases, between people who have no contact with each other, people from all over the world. This has been going on for a very long time, and people are describing these things in really minute details. And as a researcher who's talking to people who are being taken on board, describing the insides of craft, how ETs communicate, what they're wearing, the instruments they use, the whole number of events that take place, you start to realize, well, this is true, because there's no way you could make this stuff up. So yeah, truth is truth.
I want to make one real quick point. When I was learning at being educated growing up until now, I learned that empirical facts sometimes extricate you from what you want to know or believe. This is a serious thing to say to people. You are going to want sometimes an experience or something that's happening around you or to people you know or whatever, or even on YouTube or the TV, and you want it to be absolutely true. But until you research it for yourself and teach yourself whether this is real or not, you might find out while you're doing that it's not. And people have a tendency nowadays to want things to be true no matter what, and they will discount truth for.
We see that in mainstream science.
I know, and that's something we all need to work at. That's on us. We have to understand that sometimes it might hurt a little bit, emotionally hurt, no kidding, to find out that I was wrong about this. And we have to learn to be able to tell our own self-truth to ourselves. This is where truth-telling is empirically important, because you have to be honest with yourself about everything. You can't allow delusional thinking to creep into your paradigm of who you are, what you are, and why you are. And that's a really tough one. And that's what ET means by we need to heal ourselves of a lot of stuff. And that's right at the top of the list. We need to understand that truth-telling begins with us. And we need to hardcore do that. Okay.
We would get ready to go for a break here. Just so you guys know, I'm having the YouTube side and the Twitch side is broadcasting beautifully, and on X as well, except I'm having troubles with my radio side right now. So I've cut the feed on that. So we're not going to be doing the radio side version. Do you guys still want to take a break, or do you want to keep going until the top of the hour?
Okay.
Then we can take a couple minutes there.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Well, let's just have some fun here. Let's just have some fun here and make it happen. One of the things that I have learned about this entire situation, and I've noticed especially in myself over probably the last especially 6 to 8 months, I'm getting real tired of the UFO community. It's wearing, it's drama, it's being a lot of cutthroat, like kind of what you were just saying moments ago. How have you guys been able to keep your focus, Preston, on what this is about, the experiencer in meeting new people, rather than going down the dogged, spike-filled rabbit hole that the government is putting us through?
Yeah, it's tough. I'll tell you, I mean, sometimes it's real hard because there are trolls out there and it's nasty. And I watch researchers who have been in this field for a while fall by the wayside, say, I'm done, I'm leaving. This is too awful to deal with. You feel a little bit slimed sometimes. And I always get encouragement from the people who are, absolutely providing it, saying, you know what, you're doing good work. I love your stuff. That really gives me the inspiration to keep going. And personally, I just find it fascinating. And people can say whatever the heck they want. I don't care. I know what I know is true. I know what I've experienced. And I think this is honestly the real reason. I think this is an important subject.
Right.
I am angry at our secret governments, who's ever behind the cover up, the intelligence agencies. You can kind of follow that road to who's doing it. I'm mad at those folks, and I'm not going to let them get away with it. These are my tax dollars. I have every right to see the Roswell craft. I want to see it. And that's one of my main motivations. I'm not giving up. You can threaten me. You can call me every darn name in the book, and people have. I have been threatened, and I have been called just about everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
Fine, go ahead. I'm going to keep going because I find it interesting and important.
Oh, and I agree with you on that, because some people just take it way, way too far on both sides of the ledger. I'll give you an example from today. Okay, I'm scrolling through X. I had some time earlier today to scroll through X, see what's going on. And there's a bunch of people on X going absolutely batshit haywire because Taylor Swift wore a dress to the MTV Awards with a UFO on it. And now they're talking about how I read this one lady in the world, in the UFO world, where she was talking about how Taylor Swift wearing this outfit has empowered women within the UFO community and brought light to women in the UFO subject, and Taylor almost making Taylor Swift out to be a messiah in the UFO world now, all because her fashion designer created a fun dress with a UFO on it for MTV. Now, I'm not trying to be, pardon my language, an asshole here, okay? But I do know reality, okay? Why are we and like I said this earlier, every night I do a hit with a gentleman named Walter M. Sterling out of Philadelphia. And I brought this subject up tonight. This is what hurts us as a community. This is what makes the people on the outside look at us and say, look at those tinfoil wingnuts. She wears a dress to the MTV Awards, and they are blowing up thinking that she's the next Lou Elizondo on Disclosure. That's the part that, Dolly, I can see you want to comment here.
Relevance. Everybody wants to be relevant. Everybody wants their egos. They want to be known. They want to be empowered or powerful. Knowledge doesn't do that. Truth doesn't do that. These people are hanging on to things because they don't have something. They're empty or devoid of the truth, and they don't have a way to it. I'm going to tell you a secret about psychic ability. We all have it. We're born with it. You have the gland in your head for it. But if it's not working, you're locked into a human brain vessel that won't let you out your thoughts. And you get a little crazy without hearing your consciousness in the right way. You're not getting knowledge from that. You're only getting self-replicating BS. A programmer will tell you garbage in, garbage out. And we are now experiencing that in this stream because people are not open. They're not using their abilities. They're not hearing the truth through psychic ability as well. And they're locked into a paradigm where ego, relevance, power, all that stuff is the only thing that gets them high. And it's kind of sad to watch. And I will tell you that you're exactly correct. It's really hard. It's exhausting to watch this happening around us. And it's not just Taylor Swift. It's everywhere. It's a lot of different things, things. And basically the only thing that Preston and I have been trying to do is step away, go silent, give it dead air. because if I pay attention to it or I give it relevance, I'm paying it to exist. That's what they want. It's like a narcissist who needs supply. And so we don't go there. And so that we spend a lot of time just researching privately, doing our thing, talking to people on a one-to-one basis. I try really hard not to look at X. I do look at it, and you're right. I saw that today and I couldn't believe my eyeballs. It's amazing. It's amazing to me that this is going on.
I don't mean to keep harping on it. We're not going to spend
Okay.
much time on this, but it's just amazing to me how everybody just wants to cling onto something and make mountains, not even out of molehills. We're talking, little pieces of dirt on the ground. I mean, Preston, your thoughts on that silliness?
Yeah, well, people love celebrities to a degree that is astonishing to me. My family grew up in the movie business, and we would occasionally have movie stars come over to our house, and I was like, it never really occurred to me that this was something that other people might be absolutely crazy about. And there's been a few times I've been on UFO cases which involved some really famous people. And, it's interesting, but, just because a person is mega famous doesn't mean that they have any, golden road to the truth. I don't understand why people are so thrilled when someone, super famous starts talking about the subject, because it affects
validation. It's some sort of public validation that it's out there. But I mean, I guess it's the political way that everything seems to be going right now, that we're a headline society. We're not a knowledge society anymore. And that
Exactly.
I think that's what differs here, guys.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of very famous people who have stepped forward now, really famous, who said they've had encounters, and it doesn't surprise me one bit. I looked into, world leaders, political leaders. Very few of them have stepped forward, but some have, and I expect there's a whole lot more out there who are keeping quiet because the subject is such a hot potato.
Oh, it is a hot potato indeed. One of the reasons why we brought you guys on here tonight was to talk about skepticism. And you interviewed me on your channel, on the Preston Dennett YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago. And I had so much fun doing that. I really did. I really can't wait to do it again with you guys. But one of the things we talked about was skeptics, and we kind of led into this, that we kind of wanted to get into the skeptical side of this, Preston. What is your thoughts on the skepticism that's going on regarding UFOs?
Yeah, it shouldn't exist. It's ridiculous. I'm absolutely convinced, and I challenge any skeptic to do this. Take an objective look at the evidence. Throw your beliefs away and just take a look at it. And there's enough in the public arena to convince anyone who's level-headed and willing to do the work to look at the radar return evidence, the landing trace cases, the photographic evidence, the implant removal cases, the medical evidence, the electromagnetic disturbances. Angel hair cases alone provide really compelling evidence. The evidence is absolutely there. And when skeptics say, there's no proof, I'm like, you're wrong. I'm sorry, you're just dead wrong. There's a database that's approaching well over 1 million. That's just in the United States. Newfork and MUFON alone have about 250,000 documented reports. Skepticism is only here for one reason, and that's the cover-up. If we had treated this subject differently from Roswell, and let that press release go forward and put that evidence out and studied it in the public arena, there would not be any skepticism. It would be a radically different world. It shouldn't be here. It's fighting this brick wall that needs to come down, because the evidence is there.
Dolly, what's your thoughts?
Well, I see it from both sides. And basically, on one side of it, we've been taught to feel this way. We live in a society worldwide where if the media starts talking or people start talking, it's pushed on us. We're controlled that way. You don't watch TV at all without being controlled in some way to want, need, or desire something that they're showing you, or think about what they want you to think about. The truth is not told by the media. It is completely owned by the governments. People need to wake up to that. And then there's religion. Religion also produces skepticism. Religion produces non-believers. And that's kind of scary because they'll believe something that they can't prove versus something that they can. And that's scary that we've been pushed into this paradigm. People have been dumbed down. The school systems went down. There's hardly any books in the libraries worth reading anymore. Bookstores are going down in the tubes, and the only information you're really getting is from a media-controlled platform like YouTube or others. This is scary. They're not all telling the truth. They are governed in a way, and we just
That's where I am on.
Sorry, I'm editing here.
That's okay. It's
Figure out my-
crazy. So I see it from that point of view. So it's really hard when a skeptic starts attacking and saying this, and this, and they get very loud about it. They get bullying and all kinds of crazy stuff. They start name calling, because that's a resort that you go to when you can't prove something scientifically or physically prove.
Yeah,
And-
that's when I get flattered. I'm like, okay, they're calling me names now.
Yeah, I'm frustrating somebody.
They've lost their mind.
Yeah.
I remember I did an interview a while ago, probably last year, and I was telling my story about Samantha Mowat and I the day we met in 2014 and the alien in the forest. And I had this guy in the chat room, and he was like, that didn't happen. That's wrong. That's a lie. So finally, I got so pissed off with it. I kind of stopped the interview like mid-sentence right there. And I just said to the guy, I said, were you there?
Right.
I said, do you know where Mission, British Columbia is? Do you know the street we were on, the farm that we were on, the forest that we were in when it happened? Which tree were you hiding behind? Which shrub? And I made him feel about this big, because I was asking legitimate questions.
Right.
I said, how dare you?
Right.
As a journalist, I'm on a quest for truth, just like you are as an experiencer, and Preston, you are as a researcher and an author. We want truth.
Right.
But when you have people hammering on you, Preston, because they've confused truth with opinion.
Exactly. Good
Research
word.
with opinion.
Right.
That's where we are in this field right now. It's dangerous.
Yeah, well, I always tell that to people. I'm like, they dismiss a case, and I say exactly what you say. It's not wise to dismiss a case without doing any investigation whatsoever. Have you investigated? Did you talk to the witness? And of course, they haven't. And like you said, they're stating their opinion as truth. And if it gets real nasty, there's certain people I won't even try to argue with, because they're cemented into their delusion. But I think some people are reachable, but we do need to start differentiating between opinion and facts.
It's so hard today, though. Like, even, I know we're talking UFOs and experiences tonight, but even in the Bigfoot community, I mean, you have I had one person, real nice guy, Cliff Barrickman, on the show a couple years ago, and we were talking about footprints that just end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that you get these set of tracks, and they just seem to end. And he was trying to explain to me that the BFRO actually believes that these tracks, how Sasquatch escapes, walks backwards in their tracks. And I said, that is scientific. I said, if you're all about the science, you would know that is scientifically impossible. It would leave a double print.
No, it doesn't. Humans do it all the time. I'm going to give you something. I'm an Airborne Ranger's daughter. I was taught how to backtrack my tracks and get the hell off so that nobody can find me. And it is possible to do it. It's not a double print. It's just a little bit deeper. Okay. And if it's bad weather or whatever, it'll cover it anyway. You got to remember that human beings are very clever and capable of all kinds of things. And that's one of them. And so would be the Bigfoot. They could do that. But I don't think they would have to backtrack to a rock, a stream. I mean, let's be scientific about this. If you're looking at a set of tracks and they end and there's no rocks, there's no stream, there's nothing that would cover them in the backtrack to get off the trail except a 2,000-foot jump. No way. That ended abruptly. You're exactly right. But you have to take it all the information all the way out to the end of the sentence. You have to look at all the facts, not just one fact that it backtracked, but where did it backtrack to? How did it get off the trail?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I know a guy. I had a guy come into my daytime office last year and said, literally walks into my work and says, "Are you the Bigfoot guy?" And I went, "Yeah." And he's like, "I need to talk to you about something that was bothering me." Minus 20 degrees Celsius. He took his dog out for a walk just before Christmas.
Okay.
And he was walking up the gravel road, because the entire road that he lives on is gravel. And he finds 12 tracks in the snow. There is no start, or there is no starting point of where they came from. And there is an ending, because there was no more tracks after the 12th track. Can't figure it out. Doesn't know what happened. Why there is only 12 tracks. There's no tire tracks or human tracks leading up to it. Okay, to show that maybe somebody was using footprints or whatever, fake footprints. But I mean, there are a lot of, the reason why I mention that is there are a lot of mysteries out there that we can't explain, yet the skeptics in their armchair quarterback ways tend to think that it's all bunk, Dolly.
I know, I agree with you. I know they hear something and they try. My favorite ones to go after is the flat earthers. Let's not talk about them too much, but that is like a craw for me. It makes me unsettled when I think that they're very, very written into that thought process. And they have a million different ways to describe it, and none of them are valid or scientific at all. It's just them being foolish and saying foolish things. And people, they believe themselves as they believe their own BS. And a lot of people do this. It's terrible. It's rampant in our societies worldwide. And you know, we used to do things like brainstorm. Remember when you were a kid and you used to get in a group and you all brainstormed something you were working on and you look for every possible detail or accurate explanation for something in science. This was a thing that they taught us to do when we were younger, when we were kids. They don't do that anymore. They don't teach kids that there is no one answer. You have to look at all of them. And it's empirical. Think about this in science. When you have an experiment, you have to come up, when you have an answer to something and you're trying to deconstruct it and go back to the beginning of it, because this proof isn't proven until you can go back to the original premise, the original problem, okay? And if you can deconstruct an equation and get it exactly on the back end, you've just proven it. You've just gone from theory to proof, all right? But that doesn't just mean mathematics. It could be any type of science, like Bigfoot tracking. I mean, think about it. People have gotten legit pictures of them. People have legit footprints of them. And I'll tell you, as a nurse, I know anatomy enough to know that when I'm looking at a foot and I see one that's just straight like this, angular, and just with the toes, I'm looking for details in that footprint that most people wouldn't think of. Because in your foot, you have a bone on the side of the fifth metatarsal. There's a ligament there. And if you walk on your feet all the time, it bulges out slightly. So I'm looking for that bulge on those feet. I don't care who you are, what you are, why you are. If you're walking bipedal and you're walking all the time on bare feet, you're going to have that bulge in the print.
Yeah, that's why Bigfoot prints are so easy to see if they're fake, if they're flat. Any anthropologist or anyone who's at all proficient in tracking or even seen tracks can tell. There was a case with Bigfoot, old cripple foot, they called him.
Yes.
Remember that one where they tracked him for, I think it was 3 miles over barbed wire fences, ended up going into a lake, and that's where it ended. But I
Yeah.
know of cases where these tracks just suddenly stop. And that is interesting to me because I'm wondering. And
The
I'm
only
just
way out is up.
Yeah.
And if there's not a tree,
Or-
they get out. Yeah, I know.
Or they're going interdimensional.
Right.
Perhaps this is what's going on here. We don't know, but something
Yep.
is going on here because there's enough cases of that where they suddenly start and they suddenly end, and there's no quick answer as to how this is being done.
Preston, have you ever written a book about the tales of people who have within minutes had a UFO encounter followed by a cryptid encounter or a paranormal encounter?
Not an entire book. I did a chapter in my Not From Here series because I ran into my first case and then a second case. And
Oh man, we gotta talk. That has to be a Preston Dennett book. I covered a case up here 3 years ago where a gentleman was driving back from a ranch, and it was about 9 o'clock at night, getting dark, and this was in summertime. So yeah, he's tucked into the south side of the mountain as the road goes, and so it's a lot darker. And all of a sudden, about 100 feet in front of him, he watched a Bigfoot cross the road right in front of him. Scared the daylights out of him. He starts peeling out on the gravel, okay, after the creature had crossed the road to get out of there. And probably a mile or two down the road, he ended up getting freaked out again because a black triangle was beaming light down on the road in front of him.
Where was that exactly?
About an hour southeast of me.
yeah.
Huh. We've got a case almost like that in Georgia, actually, that I know about, that I've heard recently. And that amazed the heck out of me. It wasn't a triangle that picked him up. It was a more of a spade-shaped craft that picked him up, and it was about 6 years ago. And the guy nearly wrecked his car when he saw it. He had to screech to a halt. He slid sideways. The roads were slightly wet a little bit, and it was over a pass, a mountain pass, where it just goes straight down, and it jumped over the side, literally jumped over the side. But then as he kept going, he slowed down, he kept going, and it showed up further down the road, standing there staring at him, and then it disappeared overhead. So it's amazing.
Well, I always wonder about why these Bigfoot are crossing the road right in front of a car. Why did the Bigfoot cross the road? But going back to the whole UFO connection, I started getting, my own cases. I remember the first one, a radiologist by the name of Robert Murphy in Canyon Country. This is bordering on the Los Angeles National Forest, which is huge, by the way. You wouldn't think of a huge wilderness area being that close to LA, but it is. And it turns out, I did my research after interviewing this guy, lots of Bigfoot cases there. But he has this UFO land in his backyard, takes off. Next day, Bigfoot shows up. And he absolutely linked these two together because it was pretty darn coincidental to have nothing going on, and then these two things happen right after another. And people are always saying, oh, maybe Bigfoot's an alien. Maybe it's ET. But if you look into the reports of Bigfoot and Sasquatch and wild men, they're all over the world. They go back hundreds upon hundreds of years. They've been on Earth. They live here. No doubt about it. So now my recent theory is that some Bigfoot are contactees. I think they're probably sentient, intelligent, and being contacted by ETs, probably going on board, getting physically examined, getting messages, the same things we do, and being let go. It's an assessment. I can't prove it, but gosh, there's a lot of cases.
Oh, yeah. Getting back to the whole skepticism side, because we're going to take a break in about 6 minutes just to catch our breath here for a couple minutes. Do you believe, or in your opinion, I think we're all skeptics. And Dolly, I'm sure you can, is Dolly frozen there?
No, I'm talking. Hi.
Oh, sorry.
You're
I thought the
getting a
alien,
little frozen here and there.
yeah. I thought the aliens got you there for a second.
No.
But in regards, no, I lost my, in regards to skepticism, I think us as experiencers, if I put my experiencer hat on for a second, I think we are the biggest skeptics that we have. Okay.
Right.
I know when I have an experience about myself, I'm looking for logic more than I am saying, oh, I had an alien in my bedroom last night,
Yeah.
or every sound I hear in the forest, that's Bigfoot. Because it's
Yeah.
not Bigfoot all the time, and it's not aliens all the time. Sometimes it's, it's my son needing a glass of water. And he's coming up, Dad. But I mean, he's so lanky and tall, he looks like a gray, right?
Right.
So I I think we are our own skeptic because we don't want to believe this is happening to us. We're not like, oh yay, I got taken last night, that many skeptics and non-believers believe we do. So what is the difference, Dolly, between being a skeptic as an experiencer and questioning what happened compared to a skeptic who's just like using opinion as science?
It has to do with brain chemistry and your hippocampus. Your hippocampus is going to reward you or deny you when you have certain emotional responses. And if you're having an emotional response, your skepticism is going to be right there. And I will admit that I am a skeptic as well about everything. I don't take anything at face value at all. I have to understand it and know it before I'll go with anything. No opinions on me. I want the truth. Okay. But I know that my brain, if I'm in a situation that might be uncomfortable, and this has happened to me, I've been in situations in life where I'm uncomfortable and I might actually have a fear response. I am not going to grasp onto that well at all. Your brain just doesn't want to go there. Your hippocampus will start dumping information on you and not let you preserve it into your long-term memory. It stays short-term and then it's gone. That makes the difference between a knowing skeptic and a non-knowing skeptic, because we automatically respond with, I don't know what this is, and I need to figure it out. Another type of skeptic will respond with, I know what this is, and it's not real. That's the difference. You've taught yourself to know something without proof or empirical knowledge versus I know better than to say that to myself, and that's the difference between the two.
Yeah, I've interviewed people who are so profoundly skeptical of this subject that they can't look at it.
Right.
It will not fit into their worldview, so they reject it. But most people who have an unusual experience go exactly like you said, Dave, what J. Allen Hynek called theory escalation. Like, is that a helicopter? No, it's not. Could that be a plane? Could this be a satellite? What is this? And I experienced that myself with my first real good sighting when something started swooping down towards my car. And my first thought was, it's a bird. And I realized, no, this is glowing and it's round. I'm thinking, well, maybe it's a firecracker. And I realized pretty quickly, it wasn't that either. And now it's in front of my car, hovering over the hood of the car, right in front of my windshield. And I'm thinking, is this a reflection? And so you go through all these things. And finding out UFOs were real before I even saw anything made me profoundly skeptical of all things, because that's when I realized I'd been lied to. I'd been scandalized. Our governments weren't telling the truth. People were keeping secrets. People I loved and trusted weren't telling me the truth. This subject was being absolutely misportrayed in the media, and it made me far more skeptical. I've had people say, oh, he's credulous. He believes every darn UFO story out there. No, it's not like that at all.
There are a lot of discussions around here about who's telling what, why, when, where, and why. I mean, it takes him, like, if you come and give Preston a report, and he's going to take it, he'll record it. He goes back and listens to it again, and then he starts researching everything you say. He wants to know place, time, date. He looks up reports in the area. He goes to looks up anything through the military or MUFON or ATEP or whatever, and he starts coordinating facts for this sighting and what went on. And sometimes sightings are so phantasmagorical that you can almost see it at the top that this is, I'm not sure about this, and you still research it. But he does. We have long discussions about what he's doing, and he really munches through all of this. So don't think that Preston thinks everybody's okay and every story is real. No, he does not. He researches you heavily every time. So
I love it. I love it. I really do. One of the things that I was asked earlier in my interview with Walter was, why don't people believe? What is the reason why people don't believe? We're going to take a quick break. Okay. And then we're going to go for about, I don't know, a couple minutes here. And then when we get back, let's get into that question, because I want to ask you guys that question. I have a couple of theories that I want to bounce off you guys, and we're going to do that. No music tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're having some audio problems going into our radio side tonight, so we had to cut that feed. But YouTube and Twitch and X and everyone else watching, you get, this is intimate and interactive with Dolly Safran and Preston Dennett tonight, and we're going to push it all out there to the world to see. That's what we're going to do. The best part about this show, guys, just so you know, is I can eventually edit the audio and send it to our radio station, so it'll get out there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Kind of fun that way. So I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to put you guys back in the green room, and then I'll be right back, okay?
Okie dokie.
All right. Be right back, guys. All right, let's continue on here. Thank you tonight to both T-Bone and Area 53 for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. I know a bunch of you are waiting around wondering what's going on. We're going to continue on here for another hour, and then I have to try and figure out what is wrong with my audio. Yeah, Preston Dennett, Dolly Safran are here tonight. And right before the break, we took that quick break. I was asking you guys about why people don't want to believe. Now, I think it comes down to two things, and it may be more. I could be wrong on this, and I'm willing to add other suggestions to this. But Preston, I want to start with you on this one. One of the reasons why I don't think people want to believe this is, one, I think they're scared. I think they're scared to learn the truth, that we may not be alone, and they're wondering, or they're scared to kind of, and fearful of what any type of alien interaction on this planet may cause. People worry about their own lives, especially if they have children. They worry about their children's lives. They watch a lot of movies that depict ETs as very bad, ugly beings that want to kill humanity. The other thing is, I think the way society is today, with whether it's religion or whether it is something to do with, we have become very individualized, where we live on our phones. We don't go hang out with our neighbors anymore, even for a cup of coffee and a slice of cake. We don't even allow our children to go out and play outside anymore, because it's safer inside. It's safer in the backyard. When I grew up, I remember, you don't come home until it gets dark and the street lights come on.
Yeah.
And then you still tried to sneak out for another hour or two to be with your friends. Why do you think people are choosing not to believe this is happening, Preston?
Well, I was there, so I kind of get it. When I was a skeptic, I was sure I was right. I was basically convinced that the stars are too far away, and that anyone who thought they saw a UFO was lying, hallucinating, misperceiving, mentally ill. It wasn't that I was afraid of this subject so much, but to a certain degree, I think that is a fair statement, because it did threaten my worldview. But honestly, I just was sure that these people were crazy. So I think largely it's just plain ignorance. People who are skeptical haven't looked at the evidence, and they don't want to look at it because of, think, for reasons you state. I kind of wore materialism like a religion. I'm like, this is what I believe, and I know it's true, so I don't even need to look at the evidence. It was kind of how I felt. And boy, did I get a shock when I found out that I was dead wrong. And yes, it's absolutely fear that keeps a lot of people from touching this subject whatsoever, because they might be very fundamentally religious, and there's no room in their worldview whatsoever for something like this. Or they may be fundamentally materialist, absolutely are sure that this could not happen, that they are the center of the universe, humanity. And when someone has a UFO experience, I can tell you almost without exception, it challenges them on multiple levels, mentally, spiritually, psychically, emotionally, for sure. Almost all people I've interviewed who have seen an ET face-to-face will say it's an experience they think about daily. It's something that absolutely changed the path of their life. It made them consider things in a whole new way. So it takes an enormous amount of courage to even face this subject. And this is why we have contactees who can spend a good portion of their lives absolutely in denial. We are very good at denial and shelving and compartmentalizing and explaining away. So I think you're right. It's ultimately fear that keeps people from living, in their comfortable little bubble. But that bubble pops and you go spinning out into chaos, and it's very hard to deal with. And who wants to do that? It's fun to be what is that saying? Ignorance is bliss. I don't think it is. I think knowledge is power. But you're right. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's just really uncomfortable to have to adjust everything and say, I was wrong, and have to reevaluate everything and start from square one.
How about you, Dolly? How do you feel about that?
What we are personally willing to accept into the reality of our lives has to do with comfort and first, and then fear second. If you are comfortable with the way things you believe are, and you're not challenged ever in that at all, you become so comfortable and complacent that when the truth hits, there's a anger response. Fear is a type of anger, or it can ignite anger that way, and you fight back against it. And that is deadly to your brain, because your brain will lock in on what you're afraid of in anger at that moment and keep you thinking in that line, because your comfort is totally gone and you want to get back into it. It is a habitual response. We are habitualized to react certain ways, and it absolutely governs how you're going to respond to something new that you don't understand or have never seen before. And that is a human norm for the human mind to go that way. The human mind habitualizes every aspect of your life, and it is a very serious one to overcome. And if you're not taught in youth not to do that, to see things and respond appropriately. When I say appropriate, I don't mean perfect or anything like that, just not in a way that executes your ability to see what's really happening. That's when we're in trouble. And I think that's what we're doing. And religion can reinforce that in people, and it can also hinder them from wanting to believe, or they'll supplement something in their religion that will make them think about it in a way that it fits their religion. If it's cookie cutter, we do that.
Atheism can be just as damaging, on the other extreme.
But you're right. Fear is at the top of that list. Fear, if you're in a fear response, it's not going to help you at all.
What do you think created that fear? Hollywood? The threat narrative that's been out since 2017? Just the fear of the unknown, Preston?
Yeah, I think largely it's fear of the unknown initially. As human beings trying to survive in a world that's quite harsh, fear does have a role in guiding our lives and keeping us safe. But when it comes to this subject, it's been very carefully presented in a fear-based narrative. So I blame our own governments for that, or secret governments. Oh, the cat is getting mad at me. She wants pets.
It's okay. She's allowed to do. That's allowed here.
But yeah, I think that people enjoy fear to a certain extent. We see this. People go to horror movies and they like it, and it gives them a certain adrenaline response. And ultimately, fear is a guiding force in our lives. We're all running around trying to avoid death. Fear of death is absolutely overwhelming all of us. And that can be a huge fear. Like Dolly often quotes Frank Herbert, fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. You can't think clearly when you're in fear. You just can't. You don't observe clearly. It's a very difficult emotion to overcome. So I think that's largely our government's faults on making us fear this subject. I think it's really cool. Every encounter I've had has been so interesting. All right.
Okay. I told her to go eat. But the food shut you up. Okay.
You want fear? Ask me to swim in the ocean. That's fear.
Shark.
You got that right. What's your thoughts on that?
Mine? I've seen fear. I've been in situations where I should have been afraid and I was not. Sometimes fear is good. Okay. It's a survival instinct. When you're in a situation where it's you or death, you're going to take you every time, and your fear will move you into a position not to be dead and react to it properly. It is a reaction, an actual reaction that we employ. Properly, it's a good thing. Improperly applied, it's not a good thing at all. And if you want to go back to where fear started, talk about masters. You know, we've been slaves to something or another, the entire human race all over this planet at one time or another. And you don't realize how you've been conditioned to be in fear now. And it is those taskmasters that want you to act the way you do. That's why your life runs the way it does. And we're autonomous beings, and you have to start waking up to that fact. You have to wake up to the fact that you make the decision on how you respond. Nobody has the right to push you into it. No war, no police, no mob, no nothing can make you be afraid, even ideas about ETs, unless you allow it. And that's where we have to learn to draw the line in our lives, not to employ the fear first as a response to survival, but to see what's really happening before we use that card in as we need it,
You know, it's funny. I've interviewed people who love their UFO encounters, but are deathly afraid of ghosts. Absolutely terrified. And other people who are like mediums and like, I'm fine with the ghosts, but when ET shows up, I'm out of here.
I've heard that many a times too. You know, I don't like getting too political on this show because everybody just seems to all of a sudden, get real emotional about it. But without siding with either party here, we are close to an election, and we seem to be getting ready for another Senate hearing on UFOs in regards to that. Do you see either of you UFOs or the topic somehow entering the conversation going into the election? Preston?
To a certain extent, I think it will come up. I don't think it's going to be a deciding factor in any way. I do think this is a subject that's not going to go away. And I think it's important enough that it should be answered and it should be addressed. But no, I don't think it's going to become a significant part of either party's platform.
No, they've both been tapped with those questions already, literally asked outright. And both candidates have said, nope, not going there, period. So I don't think they're going to use that yet. I think it eventually will creep into their rhetoric, whoever wins, down the road a ways. And it's not going to be pleasant for you to hear, because I think it's going to be a false flag, because they're throwing around national security, security threat. It's the big word phrase right there, national security threat. And I think that they're getting ready to just unleash and unload stuff that will probably scare the BGs out of most people that don't have foundational understanding of what's really going on.
Should this be a political topic?
No, absolutely not. Not in any way. It should be scientific. Okay. Let me put it to you this way. It is not political. They have ET, if you look at the facts, ET has not shown any interest in our political system whatsoever, much to the chagrin of those who want to purport that, no, not true. Okay. And if you look at the hard, true facts, not the gossip, not the fear mongering, not the misdirecting or misinformation mills that are out there, there is nothing out there to show that ET is involved, wants to be involved, or even cares about our political system at all. There's proof out there, and Preston's full of it. He has tons of it, and so do you, Dave, where they're doing what they do. They're watching over us. They're seeing things that are happening to us. They conduct their information their way for them, how they understand what we're going through. And then they do a lot of healings for us. They have interactions with us that are more detente than political. And that is, they're trying to very gently bring us into the reality that they're here, and so that we're not afraid of them. They know good, bloody, full well that the governments have been trying to make us terrified of. And
I
why?
wish it would become a political topic. Why not? It's as important as abortion
Because
or
no
murder
one person
or
should have control
economy.
over what you think. That's why.
I know, but I
That's
would
why.
like it to be discussed.
Everybody wants politics to be the be all end all of reality for us. Don't go there. That is not okay. That's control over how you think and what
You
you
know,
think.
I'm not a fan of politics.
So the truth has to come out, and they have to let science bring it out. They have to let people who understand what's really going on, not politicians, because they don't have a damn clue. Okay. People who have the true knowledge of it. And let's begin with experiencers, real experiencers, scientists, real, top of the line medical doctors who have experience with this and knowledge. I mean, you don't want one person to be the end of the statement. Not at all.
I did interview a lady who was having contacts, and the ETs told her to stop being so involved in politics. That if you're a part of it, you're a part of the problem, and it's all going to fall apart anyway. Don't do it.
Right. Totally agree.
One of the things that I have noticed, guys, and I'm sure you have too, is as this subject has become more political, to me, disclosure is not about the ETs. It's about the disclosure for dollars.
Yeah.
Which companies can be formed to make money off of this technology and whatever it is that's out there. One of the things that Nicole Sakic and I have talked about a lot is how a lot of these same scientists and people, if you go through all of these UFO groups and companies and sources or whatever it may be that have been put together over the last 3 years, 4 years, look how many of them are in the same groups.
Right.
They are all spiderwebbed and
coming from. Right. A scientist is only as good as his funding is helping him to be a scientist. Everybody needs to wake up to that absolute fact. Every single scientist who's running experiments that cost millions of dollars are not funded privately. They're funded by governments around the world or big oligarch corporations, things like that. And who's running all of that? It's all political. Okay. Now, there are scientists out there who are willing to stick their neck out and tell the truth. A lot of them have been harmed for that. You need to understand that that's the other side trying to shut them up because the narrative that they want said is not being told by them because they're trying to tell the truth. You have to understand that if you're being funded and you're making a lot of money off of this and you're very, very popular and well known about it, where's the money coming? Follow the money trail that way. There are researchers out there, and you, Dave, we all know this. The only money we make off of this is just to keep going, and it's funded by you guys. If you give us something or buy a book, it keeps us afloat long enough to get the truth out. We're not making a dime extra over for this at all whatsoever. We're not millionaires, okay? Not at all. I can't express that enough. So watch the money trail. Whoever's talking, where's the money funneling into them? What are they making from this? And if they're hard to get to, that's the other one. The harder a person is to get to talk to, that's somebody that you really don't want to talk to at all. Openness.
Right.
Is important in this issue, and we all should be open with one another. I hate this word, but I'm going to use it. Transparent. We should be willing to be openly truthful, no matter what, no matter how hard this is, and accept where the chips fall in the truth. And we're not doing that now, and we're watching huge cliques of political statements being made, and confusing. It's not the truth. There's a little bit of truth and a lot of BS or misinformation, disinformation. It's hard to fathom, and people are more attracted to the glittery out front, those who are very, interesting to look at with the loudest voices and the biggest clicks, and they're on TV, blah, 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 and they're not.
It's funny to me when suddenly someone gets really high profile UFO field and they're brand new and they're on all these TV shows. I'm like, well, you've been around for just a year or two.
Well, there's one person out there, and I never mentioned their name, she was in the field for 6 months and went on Facebook saying how she has earned the title of UFO expert in such and such a television show that is coming up. Number one, there are no experts in this field. And on the next show this person has done, she now qualifies herself as a journalist on that show. She never worked a day in journalism. Right? We have too many people in the, and I think that hurts the field too, is we have too many people in this field who just pad their resume with whatever title that they want to have in order to make themselves look bigger than what they are or more credibility. There was one person in 2019, he called himself an investigative journalist, never worked a day in journalism in his life, spoke at 9 different conferences. Remember, you get paid to speak at these conferences usually. Spoke at 9 different conferences and got a television show out of it by lying about his resume. And the television show even equated him as a investigative journalist. So I questioned him one day on X because he was talking about how he is a journalist. And I questioned him. I said, what beat did you work on? What radio show, newspaper, or radio station, newspaper, or television station did you work on? I can tell you where I worked. I can tell you what beat I worked. Tell me yours. And he couldn't answer the question. I said, you're not a journalist. You never have been. Stop lying. Right? And I think we have too much of that.
I agree.
You know, and I'm not saying that I'm the be all and end all, because Lord knows I am not. I'm not the biggest YouTube channel out there, and I am not as much of a journalist as I used to be, but I earned that title by crafting my skills. And I think that also kills what we do on a daily basis. When we have people who could just make up a title that they're a scientist or a journalist or a researcher, you know, who are out there not, you know, like Preston said earlier, armchair skeptics. Well,
or skeptics.
You know,
yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I'm not happy about it. There's a lot of them out there. There's people who enter into this field purely to make money, purely to get fame, purely for ego. And it's absolutely damaging to this field. I wrote 30 articles for various magazines, journals, and newspapers before I put out my first book. And I've never called myself a UFO expert. I've had that title put on me, but I've never said it. I've called myself a UFO researcher. And I think you can call yourself a UFO researcher pretty accurately. But even then, how many books have you read on this subject? How many people have you interviewed? How much research have you actually done? Because I'm boots on the ground out there doing research for a very long time. And you see people now who are absolutely not doing any of that. And what really bothers me more than that are the pundits on TV who are scientists who say this is not real and they haven't done the research. And they're honest to God scientists sometimes, astronomers or what have you. They should not be commenting on this subject. They're not UFO researchers. That bothers me even more than people who are, calling themselves UFO researchers. It's a big problem in this field, no doubt.
We all have a lot to learn, all of us, including me, okay? And I've never told anybody I know more than you. Would never do that because it's not true. But what I do know, I will challenge you on and have an intelligent conversation with you to challenge what you know about something and then present my side evidence as well. That's how we're supposed to treat one another. I've been attacked multiple times for overriding people. And that's, if you listen to what I'm doing, I'm calling you on what you're saying. That's it. And I have a right to do that. It's our show. And people forget that. I put myself in a position to ask you the tough questions, to ask you to think about what you're saying, things like that. And people don't want to hear that either. And a lot of people come on and say on their shows that they're experts and everything, but they won't take the challenge, for information. And that's how science conducts itself. That's how truth conducts itself. Truth's got to be ferreted out, and it will eventually be done. You just have to give it a chance, and everybody take their time and work together. And that's the whole point. Not everybody in this field is working together toward one goal. There is absolutely no consensus among UFO people at all. None, and they just want to be right, and they'll walk over you to be right.
It used to be a lot better. There was the old school of researchers, Walter Webb, David Webb, James McDonald, J. Allen Hynek. Oh my gosh, there was a whole list of people. Donald Kehoe, I love them. These were true researchers. And that old school has died out largely.
Well, it's called respect. We're supposed to respect the truth and those who want to tell it, and give them a chance to tell the truth, and everybody work together to, like I said, find the level ground where it lies. And we're not doing that as a group.
The ones that scare me are the government plants. People, I'm like, you're not a researcher. I don't trust you one bit.
Let's actually talk about that for a sec, because that's a topic that doesn't it gets brought up, but only passing by. How many government plants do you think are actually in this field right now trying to stir it up? Whether they're podcasters, YouTube channels, people in chat rooms. Like, I know I've been told by a number of people who are involved in the alphabet agencies that on any given night, pending on the topic, like a night like tonight where we're talking UFOs, okay, that I could have anywhere from 3 to 10 people at, monitoring this show. And I've been told this by 3 or 4 different people. Now,
Right.
I say that with a little bit of a badge of honor, knowing that there is like a half-page dossier, the Pentagon,
Right.
of me at Spaced Out Radio. I think that's kind of cool. But do you think that the disinformation is as heavy as people think within this field, that there are spooks and agents trying to disrupt this, Preston?
I do. I'm not sure how much it is. But there's a list of researchers that I put on my naughty list, because they come in and they start muddying the waters, saying untruths, spreading fear, spreading disinformation, and they should know better. I think they do know better. I think they're nefarious. I think they're government agents. And this is, Bill Klass has been pointed to, and Donald Menzel. Stanton Friedman did some research on Donald Menzel, the so-called Harvard astronomer, who absolutely said UFOs were not real, when we now know he did know they were real. Yes, there are people in this field who are, I think, being paid absolutely on the government bill and are doing what they can to retard the progress of this field, and will attack research.
Names on who you think?
Not anyone who's living. I'm not going to name names.
Okay, so ones who have passed.
Well, the 2 I mentioned, Phil Klass, Donald Menzel, are the 2 that immediately come to mind.
Right.
But most of the ones that I know of are living.
Okay. What about somebody controversial like Rick Doty?
Known disinformation guy, self-admitted disinformation guy. He may be on the right side now, but do I trust him? Not
What
really.
about Elizondo?
Anyone coming from the intelligence agencies, to me, I have to watch very carefully. I'm not going to say he's, a bad guy or a good guy, but I absolutely come with an awareness of who these government folks are. The intelligence agencies are the ones who are largely behind the cover-up and the disinformation. So when someone comes from that arena, I watch them very closely.
You
I think
also,
there
you
are
also have to consider disinformation coming from a source that's already in place and you don't see it yet, or some are seeing it, and that is AI. AI can pretend to be people. It can speak to you, have conversations with you. It can say things about you. You can go into a chat room and there might be a chat bot in there, you know, that you think is a real human being talking to you, and it is not. It is AI. And they spread disinformation as well. That is a serious one because they can mock your body, mock your movements. They can mock anybody they want to, take images and make you believe them, that sort of thing. And it is heavily infiltrated into all of this now, and people don't realize how infiltrated we are with it. So, you know,
Do you think then the influx of podcasts, YouTube channels, X spaces are a benefit to this community then? Or is it becoming more disruptive because everybody and their dog seems to have their own following and their own clique that really pushes their personal agenda?
I think it's anarchy right now. I think we're in full anarchy, even on the interwebs, you know, the internet. I think that there are people out there talking and telling the truth and trying to tell the truth. We're some of them, but then I think there are others out there that are pawns of disinformation, perfect disinformation, and they're spreading disinformation as if it's real. And AI is facilitating that. And I think it's perfect anarchy right now. We are in anarchy. And people are being driven to think a certain way by those who want them to think the way they do.
I mean, I think there's two sides to this coin. It's wonderful that information is coming out in platforms that you cannot see on TV. The news is not news anymore. So people are coming to shows like yours, Dave, because I think the truth is recognizable and people are attracted to it. And the cream always rises to the top, which is why your show is popular, because you're a truth teller and you have a platform. And that's what I like about YouTube and other of these social media. But like you said, you have to be very, very discerning. You have to search through all kinds of sewage to get to the good stuff. And it's a thick ocean of sewage out there to find, you know, these good sources, good well springs of knowledge.
Do you think then that the topic is getting watered down because of the amount of shows out there?
Yes.
That there's too many different opinions?
Yes.
Rather, Dolly, okay, go ahead.
Yes, I do. Because we're being outweighed now. There's a scale, right? We know injustice, the truth, and you know, lying have different weights, right? Well, it's happened now. We are oversaturated with disinformation, and we are oversaturated with people who can't understand what the science is or the truth of the facts are, and they're waterlogged with it as well. That's why I say it's anarchy, because everybody's in the deep end of the pool now, and a lot of people are drowning with it. We are oversaturated. Yes.
Yeah. And the best example would be UFO footage. Try to find good UFO footage on Facebook. I dare you. It's so oversaturated with CGI, Photoshop, outright fakery that anyone who has a good video, good luck on getting anyone to take it seriously.
I don't understand this comment in the chat room. Dave is like a mirror universe Mr. Rogers. I don't get it. I love my audience. Love my audience. Let's get to it.
I think it's a compliment.
Yeah, but Mr. Rogers, he was a cool guy. He told the truth, right?
I love it. You know, my thing coming from a radio background, and I was talking to a radio broadcaster friend of mine who I worked with in Vancouver. And one of the things that we talked about, like, I think citizen journalism is a wonderful, wonderful way for people to get their voice and their opinion out. the problem that we have with citizen journalism is they don't understand how journalism actually works, which is drawing a line down the middle, telling both sides of the story, and then broadcasting or writing to your audience the story from a level playing field, showing both sides. And I understand why it has come to that, because of the distrust for the mainstream media at not doing their jobs and taking political sides, like CNN with being a democratic, more democratic type of a broadcast, Fox News being a more conservative type of broadcast. We're seeing that now in Canada as well. It seems like whoever gets the government funding tends to side with that side of the government. And I think because real journalism is on life support, and the last 20 some years has gone to infotainment rather than telling truth of what's happening. Like, we don't see journalists following up stories anymore. We don't see journalists, because the news cycle is moving so fast now because of social media. There's no time to do follow-ups, because if you try and do a follow-up, the people have already moved on. They've already forgotten.
Their attention span is already over with.
It's not news. It's opinion. It's become completely editorial opinion.
Absolutely. And so what's happened with this citizen journalism, because they don't trust the mainstream media anymore, they've taken it into their own hands and are now podcasting or YouTubing or whatever format they can find to tell their side of the story of what they want to know. And then they get a little bit of a niche following, and that's where it starts to build.
Right. In journalism, you tell me, because I'm not a trained journalist at all, right? I didn't even try to write the book Symmetry. I found Preston for that reason. He's a writer, very good writer, and he tells the truth. Aren't we supposed to specifically go with who, what, where, when, and why when you present a story?
And then the how. And as well as point, counterpoint. So, for instance, let's say you and I live on the same street. I'm going to make this real simple. If you and I live on the same street and your dog attacks my dog, the journalists of today, they go to me because I'm the victim, and my little 4-pound Chihuahua is, and literally I have a 4-pound Chihuahua, was attacked, and woe's puppy. Instead of saying that your dog or my dog came into your yard, attacked your chickens inside the chicken coop, okay, and you thought it was a fox or a coyote, so you let your dog out,
right,
and your dog attacked my dog, and my dog came racing home with your dog chasing my dog with its teeth baring and ready to rip my little Chihuahua to shreds. We don't do that anymore. The I'm offended crowd just wants to talk about, poor 4-pound Chihuahua being beat up by a 100-pound Rottweiler.
It relates to people as well, because victims are losing who is really the victim, is basically what I'm trying to say. Is it the person with no money who just robbed you at gunpoint, or is it the person that was at gunpoint and about to lose their life because they don't know how to respond to that? It's insane. It's insane.
Just report the facts. That's what's important.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Report the facts. And in UFO research, it's really interesting to me because I've been on shows where they bring on, it's supposed to be point counterpoint, but it's not. It's someone who is a debunker. That's not fair.
Yeah,
what type of scientific study brings on someone who tries to bash the researcher and bring down, attack the research? That's not journalism.
No, and that's opinion, because what people in the citizen journalism accidentally do. I'm not saying they're trying to do this. I think they're trying to do the right thing, but because they don't have the understanding of how it works, I think what happens is they try for aha caught you moments. Okay, they're not reading the paragraph. They're reading a sentence in the paragraph. So I can go on there and I can say, I hate ufology. But the real sentence is, even though that's a short sentence in a paragraph, it might say, prior to me having my own experiences, comma, I hated ufology. They're
Right.
only reading that Dave hates ufology.
Right.
They're not reading the before and after.
Right.
It's a real national requirement
Out of
EMP
context.
way of doing things.
Right. Out of context. That happens to researchers. You know, Dave, one of the things that blew me off the planet, literally freaked me out, is Preston, and we're not going to name names here, he just went on a show, and they filmed him for an entire day. And when it came up on the show, they used only out certain parts of it, and they made it look like, because they didn't have the entire sentences he was saying, the entire comments, that he was alluding to something else that he didn't mean. And that's happened multiple times. It's very disconcerting when they do that to you. And that's made me afraid to even try to do any of that, because how do I can't control what people do with my voice. They own it. They make you sign contracts where we're gonna manipulate this our way, not your way. And people are actually allowing that to happen, which,
Yeah, I know people who won't go on TV. I did go on one show where they asked me, how many people do you think are being taken on board per year in California? And I'm like, well, it's probably, so I cited New Fork and MUFON. I'm like, it could be thousands. And they put a question in front of that, says, how many do you think it is per day? And I'm like, it could be thousands. I didn't say that. That's what got out on TV. Oh, I was mad.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job. That was one of my happier experiences, because others have made it so fear-based. I'm like, this one guy, I presented a case recently on this TV show. The guy had a really good experience, and they put, this person is living in fear every day of another experience. Like, he never said that. I never said that. It's not true. It's absolutely not true.
You overwritten. That's why.
And it just goes deeper than that. I got a really bad review of one of my books because the guy said he wrote down the Pacific Coast Highway. Everyone in this area knows you don't use the word the before the Pacific Coast Highway. I'm like, well, I've lived here my whole life. We've always said that. And he started going down the list of tiny, you didn't capitalize the word O and top it Topanga. I'm like, what are you talking about? He attacked my book for the most ridiculous things that had nothing to do with the facts. And it went on.
Yeah, he probably shouts at clouds in the sky too.
I mean, it's absurd.
Oh, totally absurd. Getting back to the UFO side, though, I know you guys, both of you being so pro-experiencer on everything. How do you get this story out when the experiencer has literally been pushed into the closet, doors slammed shut? I remember Gary Nolan, Dr. Gary Nolan, saying, we got to stop. How did he put it? I'm going to paraphrase it. He's pretty much said we got to stop insulting and not believing the experiencers, because they are the ones who have given us the most important leads in this field to date.
Yeah.
Basically saying give them some respect.
100%.
But there are other scientists out there, like Rich Hoffman, who said on this show a year ago last May that experiencers need to step the hell out of the way and allow the scientists to do their job to find out what's going on, because there's too many anecdotal stories of people the human mind doesn't work well with remembering things, and all the age-old stories, that if this was a criminal case, you could use it as evidence, but because it's UFOs, it's stupidity. Dolly,
Well, then we get in. Yes, I heard every word you said. Then we get into who knows what facts are and who has a reasonable or educated mouth. And there are a lot of experiencers who are educated, who are coming forward and talking, and they're getting jacked as well. Okay, they pick and choose who they want to show. They pick and choose people who are also not only experiencers, but they've been MyLabbed on top of it, where the government has come in and they know they're experiencers, but then they get them in their clutches and they reorganize what they're doing and saying, so they come back with another story. We're dealing with that as well. An experiencer has to be vetted, every single one of us, all the time. And it's important, while vetting an experiencer, who does the vetting. If you have scientists backing the vetting up and getting involved, I think that's a good thing. I think somebody who's educated in scientific thinking, and it's one of the reasons we picked Preston, was because he's got a bachelor's degree and his science is heavy on the science. And he knows what he's looking for. He's extremely intelligent, extremely knowledgeable. And what he doesn't know, he researches that even. That's where we're all in trouble, where who's talking, who's looking, and who's vetting. That's the most important thing. We have a college of science where empirical data is noted after much debate and going through things. And a multitude of scientists have all come together to vet out or weed out things that are not true versus things that are. So we have a scientific record, an empirical record, and yet anything about UFOs is not in it. They've deliberately denied that. So now we're all sitting here trying to help each other figure it out and come to some sort of consensus or truth, and it's not being done properly because of that. That's huge. We have to allow the truth to happen. And part of that is who owns the money where that truth is coming from or going, and who's doing the vetting. And we need to be more open about it with each other. We need to talk it through. We need to sit and say, who's doing this? Write it down. Somebody needs to start scientifically putting this data in a way that we're all part of and we're all interested in, and we all can vet it with them and have something to say about it. And yes, every scientist, every doctor, every part of a UFO experiencer's experiences should be vetted this way. We have medical data, we have scientific data on all this stuff, and yet the governments don't want you to see it or know it, and they don't want us to be part of the vetting. And that's where we're all rock.
This is the way we could absolutely come to a consensus. I absolutely totally agree. The experiencers are the heart of the phenomena. This is where we're going to learn what we, this is everything we know about this phenomena. It comes from experiencers. So we wouldn't know anything if it wasn't for people who are having experiences. So we absolutely have to treat them correctly. 100%, they need to be protected. And yes, if you're an experiencer and you want to share your story, it takes a lot of courage to come forward. You don't have to be plastered all over with your name and everything. Your experiences go public. A lot of people prefer to be anonymous, but if you want your experience to be investigated, you have to allow the investigator into your life and have them ask hard questions. And I learned that. That's not easy to do, to start asking people, what do you do for a living? Have you done drugs? Is there any history of mental illness in your family? Who do you have as character references? These are hard questions to ask people who have gone through an experience that they themselves are struggling with. So this is a very difficult field.
That leads me to my next question. What makes a credible experiencer? I mean, we just passed the 60th anniversary of Betty and Barney Hill.
Right.
And we still have people saying that they're full of shit. We still have people saying that they were debunked long ago. I've never seen any debunking on them. I know people have tried, but they're not here to defend themselves. They're reliant on Kathleen Martin, and hopefully one of Kathleen's children or cousins or nieces or nephews takes over when she retires. But
I think her daughter's going to do it.
what makes a quality experiencer? How do we trust an experiencer?
I know what makes a bad one. Someone who's seeking money, someone whose story changes constantly, someone who is seeking fame. So that's more, we have to look at this from both sides. But a good experiencer is one who's, obviously not seeking money, fame, or fortune, doesn't want their name used, has a good job, has no history of mental illness, is intelligent, has character references, can produce some form of evidence, whose story is consistent, whose narrative lines up with the facts. I mean, there's all kinds of things that go into identifying a credible and believable experience and experiencer. But here's the thing. Just because someone might be an alcoholic doesn't mean they're not an experiencer. You might have mental illness in your family and still be an experiencer. You might be a real, have major problems in your life and still be an experiencer. This happens to everybody. So it's a very difficult thing to just point to say, well, this is what makes a good experiencer, because anybody can have this experience. Anybody.
Well, you know what? We're at that time here where we're going to start winding stuff down. I know this interview really we just kind of, freebased it.
Yeah.
We just kind of rolled with the punches. I had a lot of fun tonight. I hope you guys did too.
We did, absolutely did. This is a very productive conversation. I've enjoyed it immensely. We got to do another one now. You're coming on our show next, right?
Yes, I will. I promised you that I would come back in October.
That's
and
right.
I will come back in October, and we could definitely do that, because I know you guys want to get into more of a lot more of my UFO and ET encounters.
Yeah,
so we are definitely going to be doing that for sure, and I look forward to it. And I just want to say, like, from all of us here with our team, Rob G, myself, you guys are always so accommodating to us, and it is such a true friendship and a true respect for you guys. I absolutely love you guys. I know Rob G thinks the world of both of you too. And like I said, anytime you guys want to come on the show, you just come. You just say, hey, do you got some time? We'll get you on. There's never any issue with that whatsoever.
Okay. Thank you. It's been an honor. And yes, you're truly one of our best friends. Okay. And y'all don't realize it, but I watch the show all the time. I don't stay up all night, but I do, put you on, and I'll go back the next day and look too, but I like it live better. And so I watch your show a lot. And it's because you honestly just trying to put the truth out there and find the truth. And that's awesome. Everybody who's willing to be open about everything, that's awesome, and you're a good friend for that. Absolute good friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Do me a favor, Preston. Tell everybody where they can find your books and your YouTube channels.
Yeah, PrestonDennett.weebly is my website. You can get my books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, other online retailers. You can listen to me and Dolly on Monday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Light Gate. I have a YouTube channel. Just type in my name, and it should take you there. I put out the research in a very fact-based manner. You can make up your own mind about these cases. I do try to vet them because I don't want to put nonsense out there. But yeah, I'm pretty easily reachable on social media.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Dolly, do the same, please.
I am on Messenger. If you're not friends with me on Facebook, I will talk to you on Messenger. Just, ask for the request, and I'll come back and pick you up. I'm on Facebook as well. I have my own channel. I haven't done a lot on it because we're so busy doing everything else right now, but I'm getting ready to start putting some more content out. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I'm on X and Instagram. I have a lot of pictures of Talata up on Instagram if you want to see my ride. And that's where I'm at.
Love it. Preston, Dolly, let's hook up another date on this very, very soon. But we absolutely love you, and thank you very much for coming on tonight. Before I end the show, I apologize. I am ending early tonight because of technical issues on our radio side. I got to figure it out before tomorrow night. And I just want to say thank you to our super chatters, T-Bone, Area 53, Lavira, Flat 6, and Aussie Ange. And thank you again to Preston and Dolly for a great show, an abbreviated show here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. But it's full of love, man. It's full of love. We'll talk to you tomorrow night when our guest will be Amy and Tanya from Soul Seekers Paranormal. Yeah, we're getting all ghosty tomorrow night. Stories from Halifax. I'm going to ask them about ghost ships.
Yeah.
Ghost ships. Because apparently from Newfoundland to Halifax at certain times of the year, the Titanic sails by.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. That's cool.
Oh, me too.
Okay.
Me too. Preston, Dolly, have a great night. Thank you for being here.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.